Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
There's a slang term these days for something that is ultra humiliating. The slang term is cringe. It's usually to do with something that is blatantly uncool, wherein the person doing it should feel embarrassed, and usually the people watching it feel embarrassed too. It's often on social media, like, for example, when an older person tries to awkwardly use slang, that would be cringe. Or someone who is filming themselves crying just to post publicly to get people to like their video. That would also be cringe. Personally, I am what is known as an elderly millennial, and I am guilty of attempting and posting TikTok dances on social media. Yep, guilty. Cringe. Hey, this is Jen. Welcome to the Bible for Busy People, where all this week we've been talking about biblical stories with really incredible plot twists. And this moment in the Bible would have absolutely been considered cringe or worse. Now, it should be noted that this story is not included in original manuscripts for the book of John. It doesn't quite fit with John's storytelling. However, some say scribes added it later after it was passed down through oral tradition. It's found in many other manuscripts, and it's possible that leaders didn't want the story told because they didn't want people to believe that adultery was okay. And the church has continued to accept this passage as scripture. Plus, it does fit with the overall narrative of who Jesus is. So let's take a look. You may be familiar with this story. In John 7, verse 53, it says, "Then they all went home." And in 8, verse 1, it says, "But Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. At dawn, he appeared again in the temple courts where all the people gathered around him, and he sat down to teach them. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, 'Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now what do you say?' They were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing him. But Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, 'Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her.' Again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. At this, those who heard began to go away, one at a time, the older ones first, until only Jesus was left, with the woman still standing there. Jesus straightened up and asked her, 'Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?' 'No one, sir,' she said. 'Then neither do I condemn you,' Jesus declared. 'Go now and leave your life of sin.'" Okay, so first of all, this was wrong in all the ways. These Pharisees should have taken her to court to be tried, not thrown in front of a teacher. Also, how did they even know that this was happening? How did they get the timing right to catch the woman in the act? And hello, what happened to the guy involved? It takes two here. Where did the guy go? He disappeared. He got off scot-free. There are lots of questions I have about this passage, but it all points to the conclusion that the Pharisees likely manipulated the situation because of Jesus, with no regard for this woman. She probably wasn't appropriately attired. She was thrown in front of a crowd, and her sin was on display for all to see. Now, I know we don't treat people exactly like that nowadays, but I wonder if, in the deepest corners of our hearts, there can be kind of this smugness at someone else's discomfort when we think that they've earned it because of their sin. I will confess that sometimes I feel that kind of arrogance there. Like, at least I'm not that bad. I've been convicted of that many times by God, and I probably still need it again and again. It's humbling to remember that no matter our sin, we are deserving of death. So we can't look at someone else and say, well, at least we're not that bad. all sin is deserving of death. Now, there's no accusations here. I just want to share this so that the word may be a mirror to help us transform our mindsets and continue to grow to become more like Jesus in this situation and in all situations. Now, here in this moment, it seemed like there were only two options: for the woman to be condemned or for Jesus not to follow the law, and in doing so, declaring himself to be above it. But both of them would have ended in stoning one way or another. Jesus would have been stoned for claiming he was above the law. The woman would have been stoned for her adultery. Either way, it ended badly. So what did Jesus do? Well, he found another way. But first of all, he bent down and wrote something in the dirt with his finger. So my question here is, what did Jesus write? Was it some kind of mathematical equation for sin? Was it a scripture? Rachel Held Evans, whose book I have been reading this week, in case you haven't gathered from my many references to her this week, Rachel suggested it was the name of the partner in crime who conveniently went missing from the scene. But it doesn't matter. Whatever Jesus was writing, what he was doing at the time was drawing attention away from the woman. I appreciate that about him. I appreciate that he was thoughtful and considerate in that way, that she might not have been well attired and probably didn't want to have everybody's eyes on her. And at the end of the day, Jesus ended up teaching the Pharisees a lesson. He found the third option. The older ones left first. They were wise enough to realize that they could not say that they didn't have sin, so they couldn't cast the first stone. And then the others ended up following. Jesus diffused the situation. He showed himself to be both above the law, but also fulfilling it. And he cleared the woman of her sin. He said, "I don't condemn you." We all find ourselves in that position. We receive the pardon that we don't deserve. This weekend, I want you to think about the plot twists in your life. The unexpected grace, the miracles, or the rescue. God works in unexpected ways, and while we may have many questions about these passages of Scripture and certain things in the Bible and the decisions that God makes, we can trust Him to come through for us, even with some unexpected plot twists. Thanks for chatting with me, and I will talk with you again next week. I just want to take a minute to thank our sponsor, Cannon Beach Conference Center. As a fellow busy person, I think I speak for all of us when I say we all could use a break. Cannon Beach Conference Center provides the perfect coastal backdrop for a number of refreshing, restoring, and equipping conferences. And it's also an ideal place to host your church or ministry retreat. Get more details by calling 800-745-1546 or visiting cbcc.net.
Thank you for listening to The Bible for Busy People. If you need prayer or want to go deeper in your faith, visit our show notes. Will you take a moment to share with a friend and leave a review? It helps the Bible get into even more people's minds and hearts. Find more podcasts that will recharge you at purposely.com.